Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Dear students, today we will cover a group of diseases known as sexually transmitted diseases. STDs, that is sexually transmitted diseases, are a group of communicable diseases that are transmitted predominantly by a sexual contact and caused by a wide range of bacterial, viral, protozoal, fungal, and ectoparasitic agents. During the past few decades, sexually transmitted diseases they have undergone a dramatic transformation. First, the change in name from the venereal diseases to sexually transmitted diseases. The list of pathogens which are sexually transmissible has expanded from the five classical venereal diseases, that is from syphilis, gonorrhea, chancroid, lymphogranuloma, venereum, and mononucleosis to include more than 20 agents. Secondly, attention is now given not only to specific diseases but also to clinical syndromes which are associated with STDs. Most of the recently recognized STDs are now referred to as second generation STDs. AIDS, the most recently recognized, is a totally new disease. Now we will discuss the problem statement of STDs. The true incidence of sexually transmitted diseases will never be known, not only because of the inadequate reporting, but also because of the secrecy that surrounds them. Most of them, they are not even notifiable. All the available data, however, however, indicates that there is a very high prevalence of sexually transmitted diseases worldwide. Sexually transmitted diseases, they have a profound impact on the sexual and reproductive health worldwide, and they rank among the top 5 diseases categories for which the adults seek healthcare. Statistically, more than 1 million people they acquire the sexually transmitted disease every day, and each year an estimated 500 million people acquire one of the four STDs, that is chlamydia, gonorrhea, syphilis, and trichomoniasis. More than 530 million people they are living with herpes simplex virus 2 that causes genital herpes. More than 290 million women they have an human papilloma virus infection, which is one of the most common STD. Sexually transmitted diseases they can have a serious consequences beyond the immediate impact of the infection itself. Some STDs they can increase the risk of HIV infection threefold or more. Mother to child transmission of STDs can result in consequences which include stillbirth, neonatal death, low birth weight and prematurity, sepsis, pneumonia, neonatal conjunctivitis, and congenital deformities. Syphilis in early pregnancy leads to approximately 3 lakh fetal and neonatal deaths every year and leaves around 2 lakh and 15,000 infants at an increased risk of dying from prematurity, low birth weight, or congenital disease. Human papilloma virus causes around 5 lakh and 30,000 cases of cervical cancer and 2 lakh and 75,000 cervical cancer deaths each year. Gonorrhea and chlamydia, they are the major causes of pelvic inflammatory disease, adverse pregnancy outcomes, and infertility. This table is showing you the agents which can cause the sexually transmitted diseases. These agents can be bacterial agents, viral agents, protozoal agents, fungal agents, and ectoparasites. The commonly involved bacterial agents include Neisseria gonorrhoeae, chlamydia, Treponema pallidum, Haemophilus ducreyi, Mycoplasma, Uriplasma uriliticum. The common viral agents include human herpes virus 1 and human herpes virus 2, hepatitis B virus, human papilloma virus. Protozoal agents include Entamoeba histolytica, Giardia lamblia, and Trichomonas vaginalis. Fungal agents include Candida albicans. The ectoparasites, they include Sarcops scabiei. Now we will discuss the epidemiological determinants of sexually transmitted diseases. First of all, agent factors. Over 20 different pathogens they have been found to spread by sexual contacts. In the next slide, we will cover the important agents and the diseases caused by them. This table is showing you the few important pathogenic agents and the diseases or the syndromes which are caused by them. Neisseria gonorrhoeae causes gonorrhea, urethritis, cervicitis, epididymitis, salpingitis, pelvic inflammatory disease, and neonatal conjunctivitis. Treponema pallidum causes syphilis. Haemophilus ducreyi causes chancroid. Chlamydia trachomatis causes LGV, urethritis, cervicitis, proctitis, epididymitis, and few other diseases. Herpes simplex virus causes genital herpes. Hepatitis B virus causes acute and chronic hepatitis. Human papilloma virus causes genital and anal warts. HIV virus causes AIDS. Candida albicans causes vaginitis. In epidemiological determinants, now we will discuss the host factors. First of all, we will discuss the age. For most notifiable STDs, the highest rates of incidence they are observed in 20 to 24-year-old, followed by 25 to 29-year-old and by 15 to 19-year-old age groups. The most serious morbidity is observed during the fetal development and in the neonate sex. Overall morbidity rate is higher for men than for women, but the morbidity caused by the infection is generally much more severe in women, as for example pelvic inflammatory disease. Marital status. Frequency of STD infection is higher among singles, divorced, and separated persons than among the married couples. Socioeconomic status. Individuals from the lowest socioeconomic groups, they have the highest morbidity rate. There are certain demographic factors which contribute to an increase in STDs, especially in the developing countries. These demographic factors include, first of all, population explosion and marked increase in the number of young people. The group of young people is at the highest risk for STD when compared with the other population groups. Rural to urban migration and women delaying their marriage and thus increasing their STDs risks. A number of social and behavioral factors they are involved in the spread of STDs. These include, first of all, prostitution. Prostitution is a major factor in the spread of STDs. Prostitute acts as a reservoir of infection. In Asia, most of the STDs they are contracted from prostitutes. The male component of prostitution, that is the prostituent, is equally important. Broken homes. In broken homes, that is where the death of parents occurs or the parents they are separated, then the atmosphere in those homes is generally unhappy and the children they are reared in such atmosphere they are likely to have many transient sexual relationships. and thus contracting the STDs. Sexual disharmony. Married people with strained relations, divorced and separated persons, they are often the victims of STDs. Easy money. Prostitution is simply a reflection of poverty, and prostitution provides an occupation for earning easy money, especially for the women who are facing the financial problems. Prostitution is fostered by a lack of female employment and the prospect of a financial return impossible to achieve by other means. Emotional immaturity. Often the stress as a social factor is there in acquiring the STDs. Urbanization and industrialization. Urbanization and industrialization, they are leading to a type of lifestyle that contributes to the high levels of infection since long working hours, relative isolation from the family, and geographical and social mobility, they foster the causal sexual relationships. Social disruption. Social disruption, which can be caused by disasters, wars, and civil unrest, they have always caused an increase in the spread of STDs. Travelers, especially the international travelers, they can import an infection as well as export the infection. Travelers play an important role in the transmission of STDs, and it is exemplified by the rapid spread of resistant strains of Neisseria gonorrhoeae throughout the world. Changing behavioral patterns. In modern society, there has been a relaxation of moral and cultural values. The younger generation, they have more recent ideas of independence, freedom from supervision, and this is leading to an increase in STDs. Social stigma. Social stigma is especially attached to STDs accounts for the non-detection of cases, non-disclosing the source of contact, dropping out before the treatment is complete, going to quacks for treatment, and also the self-treatment. Alcoholism. Alcoholism may encourage prostitution, and conversely, prostitution may boost the sale of alcohol. Dear students, now we will discuss the control of STDs. The aim of the control program for STDs is the prevention of ill health resulting from the conditions through various interventions. These interventions may have a primary prevention focus, for that is the prevention of infection, a secondary prevention focus, that is minimizing the adverse health effects of infection, or usually a combination of both the primary prevention and secondary prevention. The control of STDs, it may be considered under the following heads: initial planning, intervention strategies, support components, and monitoring and evaluation. Now we will discuss in the coming slides each of these in detail. Initial planning includes identifying the problem, establishing priorities, setting objectives, and considering strategies. In the problem identification stage, the problem must be identified in terms of prevalence, psychosocial consequences, and other health effects by geographic areas and population groups with the aid of sero-epidemiological surveys and also the population surveys. This is an important first step since such information is usually inadequate or not available in most cases. Establishing priorities. Rational planning requires establishment of priorities. This will depend upon the health problem considerations, for example, magnitude and consequences, and feasibility of control, for example, availability of adequate resources, social and political environment. Priority groups may be categorized on the basis of age, sex, place of residence, occupation, and drug addiction, etc. After establishing the priorities, priorities must be converted into discrete, achievable, and measurable objectives. That is to reduce the magnitude of the problem in a given population and in a stated time. To be more useful, objectives should be unambiguous and quantifiable. Broad coverage of the population is crucial for the effective STD control. After establishing priorities and setting objectives, then there are a variety of intervention strategies that are available. Planners must define the mixture of strategies that appears to be the most appropriate to the particular setting. Dear students, in the control of STDs, we have discussed the initial planning. Now we will discuss the intervention strategies. The intervention strategies include case detection, case holding and treatment strategy, epidemiological treatment, personal prophylaxis, and health education. Now we will discuss each of them in detail in the coming slides. Case detection. The usual methods of early case detection in a SDT control program are screening, contact tracing, and cluster tracing or cluster testing. Screening. Testing of apparently healthy volunteers from the general population is done for the early diagnosis of the disease. High priority is given to screening of special groups which include pregnant women, blood donors, industrial workers, army and police, refugees, prostitutes, etc. Contact tracing. This term is used for the technique by which the sexual partners of diagnosed patients they are identified, located, investigated, and then treated. This is one of the best methods of controlling the spread of infection. In it, the patients they are interviewed for their sexual contacts by the specially trained staff. The key to success in contact tracing is the patient himself who must decide to disclose all the sexual contacts voluntarily. Then the testing. Patients are asked to name other persons of either sex who move in the same socio-sexual environment. These persons they are then screened. For example, blood testing is done. This technique has been shown to almost double the number of cases found. Case holding and treatment. Adequate treatment of patients and their contacts is the mainstay of STD control. There is a tendency on the part of the patients suffering from STDs to disappear or drop out before the treatment is complete. Therefore, every effort should be made to ensure complete and adequate treatment. A recent WHO expert committee drew up a list of recommended regimens for treating the STDs. Not less than the recommended doses they should be used. Epidemiological treatment. What is known as epidemiological treatment, or more appropriately, contact treatment. It has become a keystone of control campaigns. It consists of administration of full therapeutic doses of treatment to persons recently exposed to STD while awaiting the results of laboratory tests. Epidemiological treatment should not be an end in itself. It, its effects they are not lasting unless it is combined with a venerological examination and the tracing of contacts revealed by that examination. Personal prophylaxis is very important for the control of STDs. Personal prophylaxis can be in the form of contraceptives or in the form of vaccines. Contraceptives, mechanical barriers, for example, condoms and the diaphragms, they can be recommended for personal prophylaxis against STDs. These barrier methods, especially when used with spermicides, will minimize the risk of acquiring STD infections. The exposed parts should be washed with soap and water as soon as after the contact has been made. Vaccines. The development of a vaccine for hepatitis B, it has raised our hopes that the vaccines will be found for the STDs caused by different agents. In the intervention strategies, health education is an integral part of STD control programs. The principal aim of educational interventions is to help individuals alert their behavior in an effort to avoid STDs, to minimize the disease acquisition and transmission. The target groups may include the general public, patients, priority groups, especially the young and the prostitutes, and community leaders. The primary health care of WHO also underlines the importance of health education. Support components include STD clinics, laboratory services, primary health care, information system, legislation, and social welfare measures. Now we will discuss each of these measures in detail. STD clinic. STD clinics are the clinics where all the consultation, investigations, treatment, contact tracing, and all the relevant services for the STD they are available. Laboratory services. Adequate laboratory facilities and trained staff they are essential for the proper patient management. It provides a basis for correct etiological diagnosis and decision and treatment decisions. For contact tracing, surveillance of morbidity, and detection of antimicrobial resistance. Primary health care. Integrate the STD control activities into the primary healthcare system. This will imply inclusion of primary healthcare workers, that is the village health guides, multi-purpose workers in the STD health team. Primary healthcare, which is based on the principle of universal coverage, community participation, equity, and intersectoral coordination, is ideally suited to control the STD in the community. Information system. Existence of an information system is a prerequisite for effective control, for effective program planning, coordination, monitoring, and evaluation. Legislation. Legislations and regulations they are needed particularly to establish the responsibilities and define the standards. The purpose of legislation should be to encourage the patients to seek early treatment and name their sexual contacts, to screen high risk groups, to improve the notification by general practitioners, health education of the public, and etc. Social welfare measures. Various social welfare measures include rehabilitation of prostitutes, provision of recreation facilities in the community, provision of decent living conditions, marriage counseling, prohibiting the sale of sexually stimulating literature and photographs. The last component of STD control program is monitoring and evaluation. A critical aspect of effective management is the monitoring of disease trends and evaluating the program activities. Evaluation will show us if the activities they have been performed in a satisfactory way. Ongoing evaluation of disease trends provides a more direct measure of the disease effectiveness, and it may be used to determine the appropriateness of the selected strategies for a particular setting. Dear students, this concludes our today's lecture. Thank you very much.